Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen-Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer and also the sidekick, as we all know, or Gen-Genie Jr.
Junior Gen-Genie.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how junior I am, but...
You're more junior than me, so that makes you junior.
I'll take it.
You're like my little brother.
What's going on, Julie?
Oh, it's cold. I'm so cold.
Oh, my God. Like, I took my dog out to relieve himself this morning. And we live in Southern California, folks, just so you know, Los Angeles. So it's usually warm.
Don't be mad.
You know that it's cold when you see steam coming off your dog's poop.
Yes.
I'm sorry to be so graphic about the steam poop, but
yeah. But this is cold for us, you guys.
Isn't that we got to start
steam
a new...
poop?
Yeah.
Steampunk. It's like a new version of steampunk.
It's a new movement.
And we're off.
All right.
Yeah, my feet are always cold anyway, and so they're especially cold right now. I don't have my heated booties on. I should have them on.
I never want to complain about it because when I looked at all the weather in in the Midwest and they were like negative 26, and I just thought, I don't even know what that feels like. I grew up in Boston, and it's very cold there.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being that cold. I remember wind chills once in a while, but usually you heard about them and you didn't go out in them.
You know, have I talked about this before? The coldest place I've ever been was somewhere in North Dakota when I was on tour. And it was literally the coldest place I'd ever been. Ugh. They were saying this is as cold as it's going to get on this entire tour. And it didn't feel that cold to me. Like other places had felt colder. And maybe I think once it gets beyond...
Maybe it was your cold, cold heart. It felt more at home.
Cold-hearted snake. I think it was the lack of wind, actually.
Yeah, the wind really makes a difference.
Yes.
Because I've been in cities where it's like the temperature's cold, but you can handle it. But the moment the wind whips around those buildings... The wind kills me. Oh, forget it.
The wind, they call the wind Mariah.
They do.
But it is not, Mariah is not my friend.
No.
Neither of them.
And you know what? And Mariah has lost her range.
And her mind.
Yeah. A friend of mine told me he saw her in Vegas and she literally just kind of walked around and had men like kind of carry her around.
Oh, yeah, she does that. She kind of, and she like stands there and poses and waits for them to lift her up. And then she lazily just kind of reclines
I heard
back.
that this is like what Mae West did. But that
was her shtick in the first place.
No, but she was like in her 70s and 80s when that was happening. Or maybe even 90s.
Mariah's what, 40?
Yeah, exactly. We shouldn't
diss on Mariah.
Diss on Mariah because she is a great talent.
Yes. Okay, moving on. And on that note, let's have a clarification corner.
Oh, I love clarification corner.
Me too.
Because I love that when you're wrong about something. Finally.
Finally. That's kind of you. So a couple weeks ago, I think, or maybe it was last week, I was talking about that I had a friend in the Newzoo Review.
Yes, my little childhood television show, yes.
I was wrong.
You were wrong?
That was me doing Fonzie again.
Okay.
It was not, and it was an honest mistake because the show was actually Zoobilee Zoo with Ben Vereen.
Oh, I don't know that. That must have been after my time.
It was in the 80s.
Yeah, I wasn't a child then. I mean, I was a young...
You were an adolescent.
I was a teenager.
Oh, right. So you wouldn't have been watching Zoobilee Zoo, probably.
No, but I was still watching Newzoo Review.
So what does that say?
It just says that I like to hold on to my childhood, the things I loved in childhood.
You and my daughter both.
Yeah, see?
So yeah, it was Zoobilee Zoo with Ben Vereen and my friend Forrest Gardner, God rest his soul, he played Van Gogh Lion. Not spelled like Vincent Van Gogh, but I think he was an artist, and so it was like supposed to suggest Van Gogh. But he had both his ears, so it wasn't very literal.
Yeah, well,
both of his lion ears.
I can see why you wouldn't want to have a children's television show with one man with one ear. That might be a little disturbing. Although they could have had fun with could you lend me an ear and have him take it off? That's what I would have done.
Just for the adults.
Just for the adults.
It's like when The Simpsons first came out, they thought it was for kids, but it was all the adults got all the jokes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I still think those first 5 seasons of The Simpsons are the best. But
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
Because I don't watch the... And neither...
You know what?
You know what? This is the second time today that I have said something negative about something, and your dog has gone crazy.
That's because Buddy loves The Simpsons, so don't diss on it.
And the Backstreet Boys, apparently.
Yeah, earlier, before we went on mic, Julie was talking about how she doesn't like the Backstreet Boys.
I did not say I don't like the Backstreet Boys. In fact, I know a couple of them, so...
Oh. She was comparing her a couple of different boy bands, and Buddy disagreed and barked at her. So he listens to everything, folks.
He was pissed.
He's like our own little clarifications corner.
Okay, let's get into DNA talk, shall we?
Please.
Okay. Well, there was an uproar this last week. BuzzFeed posted an article on BuzzFeed News about family tree DNA. And it said Family Tree DNA, one of the largest private genetic testing companies whose home testing kits enable people to trace their ancestry and locate relatives, is working with the FBI and allowing agents to search its vast genealogy database in an effort to solve violent crime cases.
Okay.
The cooperation with Family Tree DNA and the FBI marks the first time a private firm has agreed to voluntarily allow law enforcement access to its database. So I'm like, what exactly does that mean? Allow access to its database.
Without your permission? Is that it?
Well, yes. Essentially.
Slippery slope.
But yes, slippery slope. Right. Okay. So while the FBI does not have the ability to freely browse genetic profiles, none of us have the ability to do that.
Right.
And neither does the FBI.
Okay.
Okay. The move is sure to raise privacy concerns. So there are people who have privacy concerns about their data, which I frankly still don't understand. But
well, no, I mean, I guess if you are not just I don't want to put them all on the conspiracy theorist pile, but if you really value and are worried about your privacy, I would think that this would scare you.
Yeah.
If you're already paranoid and think that the FBI is looking at you.
But as I've said before, the FBI, if they want your DNA, they'll get your DNA.
Yeah.
You know.
Deep state.
That's true. I mean, they can literally follow you around and pick up some trash that you used. It's very simple.
Yeah. What if you're already trash?
Makes it twice as easy. They just pick you up. And analyze you.
I'm trash with class, with a capital K.
Okay, so let me continue with this. So while Family Tree DNA does not have a contract with the FBI, the firm has agreed to test DNA samples and upload the profiles to its database on a case-by-case basis since last fall, a company spokesperson says.
All right.
So basically what that tells me, the FBI is capable of getting DNA, of getting people's DNA and changing that into a raw data file that we use for genetic genealogy. Okay. And then uploading it just like a regular customer to Family Tree DNA. And the matches will come up just like the matches come up for us. So only matches that match that sample are going to come up. So they don't have free reign of the entire database.
Okay.
They're it's just like with GEDmatch.
Yeah, except that you control what you put up on GEDmatch and whether or not you want to put it up there.
Well,
right?
now you can.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you. But also, here's where the mistake was. They didn't. This happened last year, and only now have they changed the policy on the site in December, but didn't send out a overall email saying, "Hey, we've changed our policy." Although it was just the wording of the policy, it was not an actual policy.
Well, I mean, this harks back to what we've talked about, where people are more upset about a secret being kept from them than the actual secret itself, right?
Isn't that interesting?
That you don't want to find out that somebody's lied to you. Even if the lie isn't a big one, you just don't want to think that somebody kept something from you. So I get that. That having been said, I'm constantly being sent. We've updated our privacy, policy. Click on the link to read it, and I never do because it's like 20 pages long and it's all legalese.
Right.
And I just wish they would just say, you have no privacy, and we're taking everything that you do, and better watch your
But that's
P's
not
and Q's.
true either. By the way, first of all, touche with what you just said about the keeping secrets thing. I'm humbled. Because it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear you. So there was somebody said this. We came to the conclusion, this came from FTDNA. We came to the conclusion that if law enforcement created accounts with the same level of access to the database as the standard family tree DNA user, they would not be violating user privacy and confidentiality, which is true. Mm-hmm. They just have the same access that we do. But again, okay, now I'm going to go and read you.
But they're not you. In other words, you have the access and you can see it, but you did not grant them the access to look at your stuff. So I see why there's an issue.
But they're only looking at my stuff if their sample matches it.
I know, but that's like saying, my entire family tree is open to their eyes.
It is.
I know, but I don't know that I want that. I mean, I don't know. I don't have anything to hide. I don't even know my family tree, but I think it's my right to know what my family tree is, and then if I want to share it with others, that's all.
That is true.
Yeah. What if I don't want people to know, that there's something dark in my history?
Again, my fear is this is going to scare people away from doing DNA testing.
I see that. Yeah.
And just this morning on the news, there was after the commercial break, that DNA test you got for Christmas, you may not want to take it.
See.
More after, and it's don't create more
That
hysteria.
stuff. Yeah.
I hate it.
Right.
Here's the difference.
Yes.
GEDmatch does now. What GEDmatch has done is you can still have your kit in GEDmatch, but you can now label it a research kit, which means it'll be invisible to matching for other people.
Oh, okay.
So you can do that now. On FTDNA, what they're saying is, you can now opt out of matching, which is the whole reason that people uploaded in the first place.
Right.
So basically, we paid money, although FTDNA not much, we paid money to have relative matching, and the only way to not have the FBI look at our stuff is to turn off relative matching, in which case it's useless to us. So I would think FTDNA might want to rethink that and find a way to do it, to make it so it's more of a research. I don't know.
To me, the FBI should be, if they really want to find something, they should get a court order. To me, that's what the checks and balances are. They shouldn't just have blanket access to everybody's.
But again, they're not... they're... Okay.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yes. Okay, let me... After the fact, mm-hmm. I think on either yesterday or Sunday, I got an open letter from FTDNA. From what is his name?
Someone had opened it? See? They're reading your mail.
So Bennett Greenspan, who is the president of FTDNA, got off his tuchus and wrote an open letter to all the users because this had come out, which makes me wonder if it would have come out if BuzzFeed hadn't been...
Right. Oh, no, I'm sure it is because as a result of that.
So here's what he said. I am writing to address the news that our Gene by Gene lab, which is their, what do you call it? Mother company?
The mothership?
The mothership. What do you call it? Their
parent company?
Thank you. To me, parents are just mothers.
Mothership.
That says
I like
so
mothership
much.
better.
So their mothership company, which processes genetic tests for several commercial clients, in addition to all the family tree DNA tests, has processed a handful of DNA samples for cold cases for the FBI. In many cases, the news reports contain false or misleading information. Let me start with this categorical statement. So here's the statement, and this was the question I had, and he clarified it for me. So this is the categorical statement. Law enforcement does not have open access to the FTDNA database. They cannot search or dig through FTDNA profiles any more than an ordinary user can. As with all other genetic genealogy services, law enforcement must provide valid legal process, such as a subpoena or search warrant, to receive any information beyond that which any other user can access. Okay?
Okay.
So... that, to me, is fine. I granted they didn't. Now, let me go and talk about the terms of service that he talked about in the letter. He says the terms of service were changed in May of 2018. Those changes included a paragraph that required law enforcement to receive our permission to enter the database, and since it was a part of the overall update, notice was sent to every FTDNA customer. Without infringing upon our customers' privacy, the language in the paragraph referring to law enforcement was updated in December, although nothing changed in the actual handling of such requests. So they changed the language. It was an oversight that notice of the revision was not sent to you, and that is our mistake. Therefore, we are reverting our terms of service to our May 2018 version, and any future changes will be communicated to you in a timely manner.
Well, they learned their lesson, I guess.
Yeah, they did. There's still a lot of blowback. There are people, in general, I think most people are like, I have nothing to hide. I don't, if I have a relative that committed a heinous crime.
Right. I mean, I get that, but I also
But there are people that are very, yes, you're right. And
and
yeah,
people
and there
think,
are
well, if you
genetic
lie to me
genealogists
about this, then what else are you lying about? Or what, that's, again.
If you kept this from me, yeah.
Right. It's the same thing you would think of like when a parent lies about who your father was or something, and you go, well, what else are you not telling me? I mean,
You're triggering me. I'm feeling triggered.
Well, no, I mean, you start to have questions. Like, I got to rethink my whole life.
Yeah.
When anybody breaches a trust, and whether it's a parent, a friend, anybody.
Right. So if you were an FTDNA user, what would you be doing now?
Honestly, I would probably be moving my stuff to Ancestry or to whatever.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. I don't like that. I don't like when people keep things from me. And, I'm very vindictive that way. You should know that by now, Julie.
That sounds more like something I would do.
See?
But I wouldn't do it.
No.
I mean, I'm fine with it, like I said. And during this process, I did discover, because I didn't know about the GEDmatch thing, that you could hide your kit but leave it there.
But it's like any company that does something that you don't like. You go, well, I'm going to go to your competitor.
Right, but they already have your money.
Yeah, well... But isn't it a membership like that you have to renew, or is it just one time?
I don't think I've ever given FTDNA any money other than the purchase of the DNA kits.
Huh,
my cousin's Y-DNA kit is there, so I have to stay there because that's the only way I can. That is huge, you guys. FTDNA is the only company that does Y-DNA testing, and for some people, that's tantamount.
It's like, well, I guess I could be upset with Facebook with all the privacy violations they have.
Yeah, I'm more upset with that.
There's really no competition to them. You know what I mean? There's other little networks, but if everyone is on Facebook, you either have to deal with it.
Facebook is so necessary for me.
Right. I mean, that's how it's amazing. It's only been around for what, like 15 years now, and it's become,
if even that,
one of those things where everybody has to be on it, or you're
and
out
if
of the
they
loop.
don't, they're in the dark ages.
Yeah, well, or you're out of the loop. You can't.
Right, or you have something to hide. And on that note...
I'm going to take a break?
Yeah, let's take a break.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Genes, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay, I'm going to introduce a new segment today.
Oh, that's exciting.
We're going to call it Book Nook.
Oh, I like that it rhymes.
I know.
Exactly.
Book Nook. Actually, a listener suggested it, and I'm literally stealing it from her.
Well, she gave you a suggestion.
I know. I wish I could remember who it was. I feel bad.
Well, if she is listening, or whoever it may be, is listening, they can take credit for it on our Facebook page, and we will give them credit later. Otherwise, it's public domain. Book Nook.
Okay, and this was actually the book she was suggesting, and some other people have suggested it too, and I can't wait to read it. So let's tell you about it. It's called Inheritance, a memoir of DNA, paternity, and love. It's about MPEs, guys. It's the bottom line. Dani Shapiro has built a career writing about the perplexing corners of her life, the mysteries of her marriage, the discomfort she felt as a child who never quite fit in, the quandary of growing up in a strict Orthodox Jewish home, but never connecting with her faith. In memoir after memoir, she's sifted through her memories, questioning everything. Could the answers have been in her DNA all along? In her new memoir, Inheritance, she sends off a sample of DNA to be analyzed, mainly as a lark. After all, she knew who she was. She was the daughter of Irene Shapiro and Sad Saki Paul Shapiro, who were both Ashkenazi Jews. So she said there had been hints that things were not quite what they seemed, but she never paid them any mind. It's easy, she notes, to ignore clues when you think you already know the truth. Ain't that the truth?
That is the truth.
Yes, she was the lone pale blonde child in a sea of dark-haired, dark-eyed grandchildren. Yet she never had any doubt that she was part of the chain that reached back and back through the generations. Unbroken.
She wasn't one of those stolen babies from that woman that we talked about a few weeks ago.
No.
Okay, because she's sort of banked on
she stole babies.
But they were blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies.
That's right. No, she wasn't. She was an NPE.
Oh, okay.
So when the test came back, she was only 52% Ashkenazi Jewish, and 48% was a mix of French, Irish, English, and German. And that was a bombshell. It never occurred to her, not once, that her parents, now dead, weren't who she had always believed them to be.
And because they're gone, she can't talk to them about it and ask them questions and confront them. And
yeah, but I love Inheritance reads like a mystery, unfolding minute by minute, day by day. It sounds like a good read. And even as she's devastated, it's clear that Shapiro is in some ways excited by this puzzle. What will never fail to draw me in, she writes, are secrets.
Well, it's always about the secrets,
yep,
right?
Me too. Yeah. She's talking to me. I'm going to read that. Hey, let's have a book club.
Oh, it's Julie's book club.
Jules's book club.
Jules's.
Jules's. JOOLSS.
S''S.
Yeah. That's a thing, right?
It is.
Okay.
You'll have a book club. And then they can join us in the book nook and discuss it.
There are so many things. There's so much that is written about DNA, adoption, and there are more and more. So I think I'm going to make this a regular thing. There's so many books out there that can shed light on this and share stories.
I think it's a good idea. Whenever you find a book that would be worthy of our book nook, I think you should have this segment, and we can recommend the books.
Book nook.
Well, now you got to go read it.
I know. I kind of painted myself into a corner.
You really
didn't I?
did.
No, I'll listen to it.
Corrections corner next week. I still haven't read Inheritance.
No, I'm looking forward to it, actually. All right, so let's move on. We have a listener question.
Love listener questions.
We do. This is from Bobby Ginder. Okay, he said, I'm not sure you've addressed this yet since I'm behind in listening to the podcast. Whatever, Bobby, catch up. But I just signed up for DNA Painter and built a profile for my mom. Here's the question. And he's saying if you've already addressed this. I have, but not very much. So it's okay to get back into it. Apparently on certain chromosomes, at least for me, especially chromosome 1, there are areas called common pileup areas. It seems like these areas are possibly very distant matches rather than what one would expect. I have dozens of people on one of these areas and haven't been able to figure this out. But now I wonder if this is the reason. Yeah, I have a few of those too. I have one. My chromosome 1 is like that, and I think chromosome 6, I have what are known as pileups, which basically look kind of like Dagwood sandwiches. They're short little segments that are just piled on top of each other from different people.
I'm just amazed that you know what chromosome has pileups. Like, I don't even know anything about my chromosomes.
I know.
But then again, I have not been schooled in this the way you have. And by schooled, I mean through life.
Right. All right, so I'm going to...
I think I've got a problem with my chromosome 3. Or is it 4? I always get those two confused.
I would love it if we could actually do that. I need to tweak chromosome 5 today.
Can you imagine? Like, I'm a little down. I think I'm going to tweak... if I just tweak chromosome 6 and 3 and 8, I think that usually gives me a little boost.
You know what? That sounds like a junk science, but I bet people can make money off of that.
Oh, well, that's... If I was an entrepreneur, and I'm not, I would probably do that.
Me neither.
And I'm not a snake oil salesman either, so I couldn't possibly.
But it reminds me of like the blood type diet. And
right.
Yeah.
Yes. See?
That don't write me letters. They may be legit, but they don't sound it. Anyway, okay. So I'm going to give you. I'm going to tell you what a pileup region is, what it looks like, and what they think it is.
All right.
Okay. So pileup region is a colloquial term for a range of base pairs on a particular chromosome where population genomic studies have shown that a whole lot of people, as in an abnormally large segment of the population, share a matching segment of DNA. This might be the result of a common descendancy stretching back prior to the genealogical time frame, or in some instances, the result of an area of chromosome that includes an active protein-producing gene that nature doesn't much mess with. So basically, and that's why they call them sometimes sticky genes. The pileup regions are somehow affiliated with what they call sticky genes, meaning it's a small unrecombined section of DNA that goes exactly unrecombined from person to person.
I sat on gum on the bus once, and I got sticky genes. And you know what? The truth was in my genes. And the gum never came out.
Oh, my Lord. Okay. So let's finish this, shall we?
Yes, please.
So yeah, it's a thing. The bottom line is we don't really know how to figure it out. Most of the two pileup regions that I have are generally people that have been matches to me for quite a while, and I've never been able to figure out how they match. But if they all match each other, there may be a common ancestor back 400 or 500 years. Or not. Maybe it's a false positive or a pileup region. We don't know. I
have nothing to add to
I
this.
know.
Yeah.
I know. So that's what it is. And from what I can tell, let me see. Matches in either kind of pileup region or that significantly overlaps same. That doesn't even make sense. Though probably should be considered a lower value to genealogy. Boom.
Bobby, thank you for your question.
Thanks, Bobby. Aren't you glad you asked? Okay, so that's it. That's it for pileups, and I'm going to go have a Dagwood sandwich.
If you're enjoying Cutoff Genes, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay, we're back.
Hello.
It's everybody's favorite time.
Story time.
Story time.
Yes. What do we have this week?
This week, we have the first part of an interview with a lady named Sharon McKee, who I spoke to. And she had posted about her story on DNA Detectives, and it was an incredible story, and I had to talk to her. So she agreed to tell her story to all our listeners.
Oh, aren't we lucky?
We are lucky. It's it's amazing.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, it's a true story about perseverance and feminism, and I'm inspired by it. I actually started crying during part of this interview.
Did you really?
Yeah, isn't that weird?
That is weird.
I don't know if you get to hear that. I don't know. Anyway, let's listen to the first part of Sharon McKee's interview, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey, guys, I have on the phone today for story time Sharon McKee, who posted a bit about her journey on the DNA Detectives that you know about, and it's such a remarkable story and so groundbreaking that I wanted to invite her on and tell you guys her story. So welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited.
Thank you for those kind words.
Oh, please.
It's groundbreaking.
It is groundbreaking. It's you're opening so many doors, and once again, proving that DNA is the truth.
It is the truth. And I also think that my mother was quite a pioneer.
Absolutely.
In her day, given the difficult times that women had for keeping their babies.
Your mother's a badass.
Well, thank you. And you know what? So many people, and I certainly want to tell my story, but so many people have asked me what my mother would think about all of this.
Yeah.
And I can tell you my mother would be absolutely delighted that people are hearing her story, hearing the truth, knowing what she went through, and that she and I had a remarkable journey together. And even though she's no longer with us, to have people hear her story is the best way to honor her and to make up for what she endured.
I
thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And on that note, why don't you get started on the story? Tell us how it began.
Well, thank you. Well, I was born in 1960 to two people who were not married. They met in the Pennsylvania state government. My father was in his late 20s, my mother mid-20s. She was from a poor coal mining family in Clearfield County, Pennsylvania. He was from, I'll say, more of a well-to-do family in upstate New York. She would have been completely smitten by him. He was an extremely handsome man. And, thought that there was Prince Charming.
Right.
Yeah, this is my mother's version. Now, let me just say
Okay.
that.
All right.
And so she became pregnant, and he, was not going to marry her. She went, and at that time, a woman in Pennsylvania, I won't speak to other states, but in Pennsylvania at that time, if you wanted to receive benefits for your child, you had to name a father, because the state didn't want to just pay for, we'll say, welfare benefits for the child.
Sure.
So the district attorney filed fornication and bastardy charges against him.
Yikes.
Now, that is from the Penal Code of 1934 in Pennsylvania.
Right.
We'll say section 506 and 732. I mean, it's actually defined what fornication is.
Okay.
And let me tell you, first time I read the charges, I had no idea what it was. And for your listeners, it means illegal sex out of marriage.
Oh, okay.
And that's what the law was back then.
Sure.
It eventually changes in 1972. But anyway, the district attorney.
Wow, it changed in 1972 after the 60s. Crazy.
Yes. Well, actually, it's almost in conjunction with Roe v. Wade, is what I understand, where crimes codes across the country then are changed.
Sure. Okay.
Again, this is what I've been told.
It seems kind of like blue laws.
Yes,
and I
remember
that. Yeah,
I remember the blue laws.
Yeah.
I can remember those.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a completely different time.
Okay.
So when people say, well, what was it that he was charged with?
Yeah.
So anyway, the district attorney of Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, charged him. I'm eventually born. Trial dates are set. And at the age of 9 months in January of 1961, there is the first trial. And it turns out it's a hung jury. Now, keep in mind, again, this is a criminal prosecution. This is Commonwealth of Pennsylvania versus,
him.
My biological father.
Right.
So, just like today, there's jury trials.
Right.
Hung jury. Very similar to the Bill Cosby case that's been in the news, because people don't hear about hung juries.
Right.
You have a hung jury, and it's up to the DA whether or not they want to bring charges again.
Right. Because it's a criminal trial, it has to be unanimous. Correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
In order for
hung
it to.
Jury,
Right.
they could not agree. They could not agree. So
Gotcha.
It was up to the DA, whether or not to continue prosecuting, to bring another trial or to just let it go. The district attorney in this case, his name was Martin Locke. He was a newly elected DA. He had just been elected the fall before. So he brought the charges again. The second trial finds him guilty of fornication, but not of the bastardy charge. And what that means, according to the records that I have, is that he had to pay court costs, and the jury believed they had sex. Mm-hmm. It's just they didn't believe that the baby was a result of that,
right.
That engagement, if you will.
Yes. So they were basically calling your mother loose. Essentially.
I think you could certainly say that she was disparaged. I know from her, she said, that's certainly how it came across.
Of course, yeah.
And so by not finding him guilty of the bastardy charge, he did not have to pay any child support. And hence, I became a child of the public welfare system in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And the way that worked at that time is a woman would receive welfare benefits until the child was able to go to school and the mother was able to return to work.
Okay.
And that was our situation.
Okay.
We would live with several of her siblings at times. She had a very hard time making it work, but I remember how she would say to me, I wanted to keep my baby. I just wanted to keep you.
Right.
And so that's why I say I think, given the pressure I know that she had received from the church that she went to, and others, that it was like, that you ought to give the child up for adoption. And she said, I was just adamant. I was not giving you up. And, I think it was very courageous of her to go into a courtroom, not once, but twice, to stand up and try to make sure that her baby had support from her father.
Right. Yeah.
So I do consider her a pioneer.
Absolutely.
So fast forward, my life, Mom, I put myself through school. She would, I was very curious. Once I started school and, saw that people had daddies, something that, was completely foreign to me. I started asking her questions, and I can remember things that I would ask her, drilling her, as a teenager. And keep in mind, I would eventually be a journalism major. So, I would drill her.
Yeah.
And because he had not, he lived in a different state, it also made it easier, if you will, that, there was never any contact ever again. And Mom would even say to me, well, I'd have no idea how to even find him.
Right.
I mean, she became, sadly, the trials did take a toll on her. Mm-hmm. And, being labeled, you could say, I guess, promiscuous or a liar, or,
it's
whatever.
Horrible. It's a horrible assassination of your character.
Yeah, it did. And I know it was devastating to her. And my mother would always tell people about this trial that went amiss. I mean, it truly haunted her her entire life.
Yeah,
I mean, you think of when you hear about people who are convicted for a crime they didn't commit and they're in jail. And I mean, can you imagine that it's like, I'm telling you who my baby's father is,
right,
and you're not believing me. And again, it's not like this was someone who couldn't have paid child support.
Right.
I mean, it
would have been a drop in the bucket for him, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would say something differently, but, he certainly could have.
Right.
So anyway, she struggled, worked. She would tell me, what school he went to, that the family enjoyed sailing, where he was from. I knew his birth date. So I got to know enough, and I knew he had a twin brother, an identical twin brother.
Oh,
and
identical, okay.
Yes. But no way could I be the brothers, because he had married and was living in California at the time of my conception.
That was going to be my question. I noticed that.
Yes.
I was like, how do we know? Okay.
Yes. No, they never met.
Yes.
She never met him.
Gotcha.
So we know for a fact that could not be him.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward, and my mom, I will tell you also, she took very ill my senior year of college. Mm. She would end up having a breakdown that I believe I mentioned in the posting. And I had a choice to make. I could either go on with my life, or I was going to need to take care of her. And with everything my mother had done to take care of me and everything she gave up for me, I could not abandon her during her hour of need.
Right, yeah.
And so she ended up living with me, and we had a very close relationship. She lived with me until the time she went into a nursing home at the age of 72.
Oh, wow.
Right, wow. Yes. And 8 years later, she would die the morning after her 80th birthday. Oh, I'm sorry. She lived to see me get married.
Oh, good.
Loved my husband, absolutely adored my husband. And I provided a very good life for her. I tried to make up. I was constantly, to be very honest with you, trying to make up for what she had
sacrificed
gone through.
For you, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
I really did. I really did. As you know, I think I referenced in the post that I'm about to retire with my 35 years with the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. I have a degree from Penn State University. I went on to do very well given the circumstances to which I was born.
Definitely.
I know I did.
Yeah.
Because, people have, I've read statistics. I probably should not have turned out this well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I did, and I think that's a credit to my mom.
Absolutely.
So after she died, I was devastated. And, it just came to me when I was putting her clothes away on New Year's Eve for the charity. And it was like, she had such a hard life. She could never get over the trials. And I thought, I need to look at this again. Yeah. I need to try to look at my paternity. Plus, to be honest, after seeing somebody die, this was several days in a hospital of watching her pass. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was really feeling my mortality. I was thinking, I have no idea what the other half of my medical history is. Mm-hmm. And so that became a driving that I wanted to know that.
Yeah.
I needed to know. I felt I needed to know that. I was about 55 at the time. And I felt, oh my God, I'm feeling my mortality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, so I said to my husband and my coworker I said, I need to look at this. And my coworker was into genealogy, had been doing, we'll say, the old-fashioned genealogy where you go to courthouses.
Yep.
For the last 30 years. And he was an expert in it. And he said, I've never done this, but this is something you might want to do. This whole DNA, genetic genealogy is, and now keep in mind, this is January of 2015.
Okay.
Before there's commercials.
Sure. It was relatively new, yeah.
Constantly on the airwaves.
Yeah.
And he's like, this genetic genealogy is something you might want to look at. This might be a way to prove it, or at the very least, you'll know what your other ethnicity is. Because, my mother had a certain last name that, I knew, that, okay, she's Italian and Austrian, that type of mix.
Yeah.
So, and I had an Italian last name. So I was like, okay, yeah, tell me about this. So I went ahead and did Ancestry and family tree DNA. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, my coworker, who was really into genealogy, I told him everything I knew about my father, came in one day and said, you know what? You're Canadian.
Uh-huh.
He had found a border crossing for my father's twin.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
And with that, I now had my grandparents' names as well as my father's siblings' names.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had no idea.
And that's when the skies open up and things change.
It was. I've told people it's like the curtain was lifted.
Yes.
And now I can see the actors behind the stage. I knew there had to be people there, but I had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
And with that, I then saw my paternal grandmother's picture for the first time on Ancestry, because she was listed on several family trees. That was a shock to see somebody that's very closely related to you, and yet you're seeing them for the first time.
Yeah.
And I should also back up and say I had seen pictures of my father earlier in life, because he had gone to Penn State as well.
Oh, right.
And so, being the sleuth I was at a pretty early age, I saw his picture in a yearbook.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we look alike.
Yeah, really? I was going to say, did you see a resemblance?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Without a doubt. Yes.
Incredible.
Yes. I saw my dimples and a couple other features staring back at me.
So great.
So anyway, sorry to digress on that.
No worries.
So then I saw my grandmother and started seeing, this family tree and all these people that my ancestors. And so then I went to a genealogy conference in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and met Josh Taylor of Genealogy Roadshow. And he's like, he was terrific. He said, I'll do anything I can to help you. He said, but you really need to fish in all three ponds and do 23andMe. So I did that. The results came back in June, and it showed an anonymous first cousin.
And that's the end of part 1.
Oh my gosh. I love these cliffhangers. I got to go to part 2 and hear the rest.
Yep, you do. It's a real page turner. So great. That's end of part 1 of Sharon McKee's interview. She's a delight. And I can't wait for you guys to hear the rest of it next week.
Yeah, thank you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon. She was lovely. Okay. Hey, it's that time.
What time is that?
It's time to go home.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, then I guess I'll tell you a little bit about myself.
Please do.
I was born in a small town. Wait. No, actually, all you need to know is that my name is Richard Castle. I have a website, richardcastle.com, for my songwriting and piano playing and theater writing. And you can follow me on the Twitter @CastleSongs.
Sure. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson. You can find me on Twitter @Jules Jackson with 2 O's. You can find the podcast on Twitter, Cutoff Genes Podcast. Oh, @Cutoff Genes Podcast. Join the Facebook group, Cutoff Genes Podcast. It's all really just called that. And answer the question and make me smile. And you guys can come on in. I post reference things that I reference on the podcast. I post links to. If you would like to share your story, like Sharon or any of our other Storytime participants, please reach out to me. Everybody's story is great. Everybody's story is different. And everybody's story is relevant.
There's one more thing.
What?
I can't seem to find my truth. Where did I put it?
Oh, Rich. The truth is in your genes.